It's a tough question. Why do so many new ventures fail? Well, so often it comes down to just one thing. They build their entire business on a guess they never actually bothered to check. Today, we are going to unpack a really powerful tool that's designed to stop that from ever happening to you. It's called the assumption matrix, and it's all about turning your absolute riskiest guesses into your biggest wins.
So here's what we'll cover. First, we'll look at the hidden danger that sinks most startups. Then, we'll decode the matrix itself, map out its different parts, and I'll walk you through a simple 4-step action plan. And finally, we'll see how this whole thing transforms pure guesswork into a solid green light for your project.
All right, let's get right into it. The number one reason new projects completely derail is because of an incredibly common, but believe it or not, a completely avoidable mistake. So, what is this big mistake? It's not about having a bad idea, not really. And it's not a lack of passion. It's about building your business on a whole mountain of assumptions without having any clue which one you should test first.
The typical approach is just chaos. You either try to test everything at once, which is impossible, or, and this is even worse, you start with the easy stuff, the low-hanging fruit. And all that does is waste precious time while the real risks, the ones that can kill your business, are just hiding in plain sight. But the assumption matrix, well, it flips this whole idea on its head. It basically forces you to confront the scariest, most critical, and most uncertain assumptions first. You're de-risking your whole venture right from day one.
So let's introduce the hero of our story, the assumption matrix itself. I want you to think of it like a strategic compass that points you directly toward your biggest risks so you can tackle them head-on. At its core, the assumption matrix is a really simple but incredibly powerful prioritization tool. It works by giving every single one of your assumptions 2 scores, a criticality score, we'll call it C, and an uncertainty score, which we'll call U. Believe it or not, these 2 little scores are all you need to find your focus.
So let's look at that first axis, uncertainty. This is a pretty simple question with a score from 1 to 5. How much hard evidence do you actually have for this assumption? Is it a proven fact, or is it just a wild guess you came up with in the shower this morning?
For example, saying something like, parents will pay $10 a month for our AI meal planning app. If you've never asked anyone, that is pure guesswork. That gets a high uncertainty score, a 5. But saying there are 3 million parents in Turkey, well, that's a fact you can look up. That's a low uncertainty score, a 1. See the difference? One is a guess, the other is data.
Okay, now for the second axis, criticality. And honestly, this one's even more important. It asks a really brutal question. If this assumption turns out to be false, is your business just dead on arrival? Does the entire model just completely collapse? And the contrast here is what makes this so powerful. The assumption that parents actually want a solution for meal planning, well, that gets a C-score of 5. Because if that's wrong, your business is over before it starts. But the idea that our app's primary color should be blue, that's a C-score of 1. If you're wrong, who cares? You just change the color. The business survives. So when you plot these 2 scores against each other, uncertainty on the bottom and criticality on the side, you get this simple 2x2 grid. And this is the matrix. Every single assumption you have falls into one of these 4 boxes, and where it lands tells you exactly what to do next.
Okay, so let's break down what each of these quadrants actually means. This is where the strategy really starts to come to life.
We are going straight to the most important box on the grid, the top right. This is quadrant 1. This is where your assumptions are both highly critical to your success and highly uncertain. This, my friends, is the danger zone. This is where all the business-killing risks live.
For anything that lands in this quadrant, there is only one course of action. You have to test it immediately. I don't mean next week, and I definitely don't mean after you build something. I mean now. An assumption like parents will pay $10 a month is a perfect example. If it's wrong, the business fails. And if you have 0 data, you have to get some, fast.
The other 3 quadrants, they're much simpler to manage. If something is critical but you've already proven it, that's quadrant 2. You just monitor it. If it's uncertain but not really critical, that's quadrant 3. You can just wait and test it later. And if it's neither critical nor uncertain, that's quadrant 4. You can safely ignore it. Just forget about it. It's just noise.
So how do you actually put this into practice? This isn't just theory, right? It's a concrete action plan. So here's a simple 4-step process to build your very own matrix.
It really is this simple. First, you just brainstorm. List every single assumption you can think of about your customers, your product,
your market, everything. Second, you score each one for criticality and uncertainty. Third, you plot them on the matrix. And fourth, you prioritize and start designing experiments for everything that landed in that top right danger zone. Okay, and this part is maybe the most crucial point of the whole process. To get a clear priority, you have to multiply C and U to get a single risk score. Do not just add them. Why? Because multiplication dramatically amplifies the danger of assumptions that are both critical and uncertain. A 5 times 5 gives you a risk score of 25. That's a fire alarm going off. But a critical fact with low uncertainty, a 5 times a 2, only has a risk score of 10. This math forces you to see what truly matters.
Now let's see the transformation. This is the real payoff. This is why this tool is so powerful for any new venture, because it gives you a clear path, a path from a state of total confusion to one of confident action. The entire goal of this process, the whole point, is to take those terrifying items in your danger zone, your pure guesses, and systematically run experiments to turn them into validated facts. You are actively turning risk into certainty. Just look at this. At the very start of a project, your matrix is filled with these high-risk assumptions. Things like, will people pay? And is this even a real problem? They both have a risk score of 25. These are the hidden icebergs that can sink your entire venture before it even sets sail. And this right here brilliantly illustrates the aha moment. After you run some targeted experiments, maybe some customer interviews or a simple landing page test, look what happens. The criticality score, that stays the same. These things are still critical. But the uncertainty score, it plummets. Your risk score drops from a terrifying 25 all the way down to a 10 or a 5. You've successfully moved these items out of the danger zone. You have replaced a wild guess with actual knowledge.
So let's just recap the whole framework one last time. Quadrant 1, high-high, you test now. Quadrant 2, high-low, you monitor. Quadrant 3, low-high, you can postpone it. And Quadrant 4, low-low, you just forget it. It's a simple, elegant system for managing the single biggest threat to any new idea.
And that brings us to the final and most crucial question. This isn't about my example anymore. It's about you. So take a moment and really think, what is the single most critical, most uncertain, and deadliest assumption that your project is resting on right now? Find it, test it, and turn that risk into your foundation for success.